So first we'll start off with the blood vessels. The first of the blood vessels we have are the arteries, located here. The arteries carry the blood away from the heart. This will always be the oxygenated blood, apart from the pulmonary artery, which goes to lungs. So that one won't carry the oxygenated blood. It's strong. The artery is strong as it is pumping away blood at high pressure to allow the blood to reach all parts of the body that requires the blood. They have narrow lumens as well, and they have thick muscular walls. So they do have the small passageways for blood, which is the internal lumen. Then we'll next go on to the arterioles, which are the parts of the blood vessel which branch off the arteries. They're the smaller ones. So yeah, they come after the arteries and they branch into smaller arteries when nearer any tissue found in the body. They're more of a smooth muscle to control the blood flow because they need to vasoconstrict and vasodilate. Then go on to the capillaries, which are here. So the capillaries are the thinnest of blood vessels. They're microscopic, which means they can only fit one cell through the capillaries, so they're 1 cell thick, and they also have a very low blood pressure because they are so thin. This is where the gas exchange takes place. So the oxygen passes through the capillary wall and into the tissues, and then carbon dioxide passes from the tissues into the blood. So yeah, it brings blood as close as it possible to the cells. And then we move on to the venules. So venules are vessels formed from the capillaries, and they basically just drain the blood from the capillaries into the veins. And then the veins, which are here, they carry the blood to the heart, so it'll always be deoxygenated blood, apart from the pulmonary vein, which goes from the lung to the heart. They have a large internal lumen, and they contain blood under a low blood pressure, and they have valves to prevent the blood flow flowing backwards. So if it was going up the body towards if the blood was going up towards the heart, the valves would then stop it from falling back down due to obviously gravity pulling the blood down. So all they do is just return blood back to the heart, and then they also do have the wider lumen than the arteries. So next, move on to the functions of the blood. So one of the main functions of the blood is to transport all the things we need in the body. So it transports the hormones, enzymes, nutrients such as glucose, amino acids, micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, fatty acids and glycerol. They also contain the plasma proteins, which are associated with the defense, such as blood clotting and antibodies. They also carry the blood cells, which obviously would be like the white blood cells and the red blood cells. And they also can dissolve gases, so like oxygen and carbon dioxide. And they use the waste products of they carry the waste products of metabolism, such as water. So the next function of the blood is to maintain the body temperature. So they'll do this through vasoconstriction and dilation. So the blood will rise to the surface to cool down the body, and then blood goes in deep into the body, warm the body. So to cool the body down, all the blood will rise to the surface of the skin. This is why we tend to get a red face when we've been doing a lot of exercise because we're trying to lose a lot of heat through our faces and our skin. So they'll do that through vasoconstriction and vasodilation. So when we cool down, our blood vessels basically dilate. Another function of the blood is to control the pH. So the pH of blood must always remain in the range of 6.8 to 7.4, otherwise this can begin to damage the cells. So anything above that or below will cause damage to cells, which can harm the body and which can make you ill and can also cause a lot of problems for the body. And also another function of the blood will be to remove all the toxins in the body. So the kidneys filter out all the blood in the body, and that's approximately 8 pints of blood. And they'll do that 36 times every 24 hours. So the toxins will be removed from the blood by the kidneys, which will then leave the body in the urine. And also toxins leave the body in a form of sweat. So when we're sweating, when we're doing a lot of exercise, our body will be releasing a lot of toxins through our sweat. Also, a function of the blood is the regulation of body fluid electrolytes. So excess salt is removed from the body through urine, and our bodies may contain around 10 grams of salt per day, such as in the case of people on Western diets containing more salt than the body actually requires. So that's all the functions of the blood. Then move on to lung volumes and breathing control. So breathing control, we'll start off with lung functions, actually. So the lung volume is the percentage of air that the lungs can hold at any given period of time. So this can differ from person to person. There are a few physical differences which can accompany the lung volume. There's also something very similar to this called the lung capacity, which are a variety of combinations that the lung volumes can take on. This has to do with the inhaling and exhaling of air into and out of the lungs. So at any one time, or an average human being can retain 6.3 or 6 litres of air in his lungs at any one time. So the capacity of the lungs that is needed for regular breathing uses a small proportion of this. However, every minute an average person breathes anywhere from 9 to 20 times. So then we'll move on to the breathing control. So the breathing control, or control of respiration, is accomplished chemically, mainly using the CO2 and O2 chemoreceptors in the body. So the most important chemoregulator of respiration is either CO2 or O2, since the chemical regulation of body is different in healthy and sick people. So it's always going to be a bit different from a healthier person to someone who is feeling a bit rough, who's feeling quite ill, has got a cold, or has got a sickness bug or something like that. So when the diaphragm contracts and moves lower, the chest cavity enlarges, reducing the pressure inside the lungs. So this will equalize the pressure when the air enters the lungs. When the diaphragm then relaxes and moves back up, the elasticity of the lungs and the chest walls push air out of the lungs. So this is how we breathe. So when our diaphragm relaxes and moves back up, this is when we'll breathe out, as the air is being squeezed out of our lungs. The lungs have no skeletal muscles of their own. The work of breathing is done by the diaphragm. The muscles between the ribs, which are the intercostal muscles, and the muscles in the neck and the abdominal muscles. The diaphragm is slightly dome-shaped. It's a dome-shaped sheet of muscle that separates the chest cavity from the abdomen. And it is the most important muscle used for breathing in, which would be called inhalation. Diaphragm is attached to the base of the sternum, so the long bone in our chest, and the lower part of the rib cage and the spine. And as the diaphragm contracts, it increases the length and diameter of the chest cavity, and also then expands the lungs to make them bigger, to allow more room for more air to come in, to allow more oxygen into the blood. The intercostal muscles help move the rib cage and then assist in the breathing.